Hey guys, a little change I'm going to make about my first episode of season 5 is the name. Is, and yes. Turn. Well, the reason why I changed Edward from Henry is because of the, the model in the game I use. You see, let me just show you why. Because if you remember back in season 4, if you remember back in season 4, Edward barely wasn't. I mean, he was occasionally there, but that's actually the reason why I'm not using Edward for anything back in season 4. Let me just show you why. Because the type of story I wanted would not get possible with that game's limitation. You see, the NWR Northwestern Railway. Sir, wait, hold on. Leg. Hold on. This word spells out the word leg, like in the word Lego. Because, hold on. I might. Anyway, wait. I'm only going to be. I'm showing you why off camera. Why I'm decided to change the name. And yes, I will do it on Thursday, because I really want that episode. The first. Don't believe me? I really do want that episode to be completely shoot with the season 5 intro. But then I had a brilliant idea of mine. Why don't you use the intro from the last season in the very first episode of the first season? Let me just show you why. Let me. It's also the same reason that James hasn't played an episode in that season. You're thinking, not fun. Everyone looks fine right now. What's the problem? Oh, just you wait. They haven't changed the map since I've used it in season 5 for the very first episode. By the way, when I was filming that episode, Roblox had a problem. Had a serious problem. You know what I'm talking about? Huh? Maybe not. Yeah, Edward Mall's still a little glitchy. Nah, Edward Mall's still too glitchy for my liking. And besides, I'm. Maybe Edward and Jane will have bacon rolls. I mean, you see, I did want I did want Henry to line an episode that I did want a character like Henry, who's been nothing in my series. So that because I had, besides him, this entire arc back in season 2 where they were doing the night, and that was kind of Henry's thing with the flying. But since then, I've hardly used the character. Sure, he's made occasional appearances, like occasionally, like Henry's been used for something, like in that salty Semper story, but that was all salty. Now I think about it, that was all salty. You see, Henry had barely had an episode to himself at all in my series. Now we might be thinking, what about the origins of Henry? Great, you're right, and that's not only going to. I'm not only going to have a separate tab title, Island Stories, which wait, instead of these are where I will give some background about some of the characters, like or yeah. And Thomas's old nah, I might just call Island Backstory, where I give some. Now in case of Thomas, I'm just gonna use his old line story. I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's gonna be called Island Backstories. Where I will plan to, and also when I'm planning to reshoot season one someday, maybe that can be Island Oliver and Toad will not be present. I might be planning to reshoot season one and two with with Henry re, with his old shape. Anyway, let me tell you why I wanted to use Henry instead of Edward. Not because he's not my favorite. Edward, yes, Edward is one of my favorite. And guys, I would have him be the one to tell the characters about Diesel 10 and Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And he'd be the one in Myth the Island that tells the Fat Controller about the old Myth the Island tunnel. Huh? And yes. And by the way, I'm gonna have another flashback Semper story about Gordon and his two brothers, Alfred and 9846 Two Engine. If I'm wondering, where are they? Where are they now? If I'm wondering, why have we never heard from them? If they were around after Edward's demon problem took. Remember, Edward's demon problem took took a turn for the worse. Took a turn for the worse sometime in the past. So, so the reason why is because Alfred, Fred sadly died in due to died due to mental fatigue, and he we don't. I'm not gonna really touch upon how Alfred died in my series. In case you're wondering, why would I not touch upon how Alfred died in my series? And not like Victor Tanzik or Thomas 1, Edward 2, or Henry 3, that guy. Where on that series he tells us about I'm not gonna touch upon how he died, but I am gonna clarify the reason for his death. Now Alfred's gonna if in case you're wondering how would I do Alfred, I'm just gonna use Gordon or Henry. Like kinda like what I did with Eagle. I'm gonna use 9462 and Gordon and Alfred, even though he's supposed to be an LER B12, which means not that much. I mean, I mean, he's probably like a common type of steamy that once existed. Let me look up how common the LER B12 were and get right back. Anyway, after doing some googling, I couldn't find anything about how common they were. So Alfred is an LER B12. However, Gordon is a Gresley is a Sir Nigel Gresley engine, like I mentioned in my Gordon story. Is a Sir Nigel Gresley a hold on. Well, Gordon is an A1, but there was a prototype for an A0. However, Sally Gresley didn't have the time to make that engine, which is why those engines he was, but yet he did get the H4 upgrade later in life. We're not like going to see that in possibly season 7 or something. You might be thinking, what about Henry? How would you change his design? You're probably wondering, what about my backstory? Like the whole work. You see, I was built by a random locomotive builder named Sir, Sir his name was John Alderton. His name was John Alderton. Or he he yeah. I was built, in case you're wondering what was the the year I am, I was built in 1919 at the Baldwin. I was actually built not in Great Britain. My plans, I was built in 1919 at, in two separate places. My body was built at the Baldwin Locomotive Works in Ohio in the United States. You might be thinking, that doesn't make any sense. How would you be built at the Baldwin Locomotive Works in Ohio? No. Turns out the guy, my builder, who I don't know the name of, and I care to never know the name of, who I never learned the name of, and I don't care if I never learned the name of, was American. Was American. Was American. And also, no, this is not going to be my Island Backstory series. I'm not going to even make that until I'm done with Stories of Port. I was built. I think his name was John something. John Alderton. His name was, I think, Robert. I think his either his name was John Alderton or Robert O'Willie. You know what? I never learned his name, and I never cared. Something about him just rubbed me the wrong way. Talking about my old designer, I've actually never told anyone. I've 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 never told anyone about my past. And FYI, guys, that's going to be an episode in season 6, Henry's past, where Henry is that going to be a series in my backstory or an episode of season 6. Who knows? Who knows? Let Henry continue. Anyway, I was built in 1919 at the. Hold on. Oh, I got confused with another engine that was built the same year. And also, by the way, Thomas has told me where his name came from. Thomas Smith named himself after a shipbuilder of all things. I only have some interesting stories. I don't want to get so close to the docks. I'm going to tell you right here at the station about some interesting facts regarding some of his engines, like Murdoch and Thomas. For one, Thomas is actually named after a guy named Thomas Ambrose. How come I've never met this guy, but Thomas has met him in real life. Thomas met him once. Thomas is, at least I think Thomas did. But then again, he was a little vain about why he was built in 1915. And he said that the guy he named after died back in 1912. I've never asked him why he was named after a dead guy. Did I ask him? I asked him many times over the years Why? Two flatbacks. And I was just joking about that flatback part, guys. Henry decided to add them on the map I'm only going to use because I found. Hey Murdoch, can we at least get out so we can answer your questions? You have a question, right? Yeah, I do. What is it? What are you two named after? Okay. Henry asked. I decided to add Murdoch and Thomas. Oh, is that what you want to know? Said Thomas. Miss. Is that what you want to know? Said Murdoch. It's a pretty sad topic for us, Henry. If it's sad for you to mention who you were named after, don't do it. No, I must. I'm named after Thomas Ambrose. You see, you see where I worked. You see, Henry, back where I used to work. You see, back where I used to work. I used to work at before I came to the Island Solar. Something I've never told you about my own line and where it was located. I said York, but I'm misremembering. I was I was technically in Ireland. I was one of my brothers was sent to Ireland to work in 1915. In 1915, one of my younger brothers was sent to work in Ireland. Later that same year, while I'm working on my old railroad, Henry's okay, Thomas. Continue to tell me about who about the guy named Thomas Ambrose. How come I've never met him? Well, Thomas Am for one, Thomas Ambrose is not a locomotive designer. No, no. He's he was back in the day. He was before something happened to him. He was a top of the line shipbuilder working at the Harlandville shipyard of Belfast, Ireland. But then all Henry could say was all I could say was that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. The locomotive that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the locomotive be named after shipbuilding? I have so many questions about Thomas Ambrose. About Thomas Ambrose. But Thomas said, unfortunately, Henry. Yeah. Unfortunately, Henry. The reason why I've never brought up him, the guy was named after, is because of the ship he built. Because one of the ships he built for the White Star Line. Go on, Thomas. Tell me. Okay. Here goes. It was 1912. It was 1912 for Thomas Ambrose. I just wonder what would have happened if he never got on board that ship. Then again, that ship would have sank no matter if Thomas. But never mind. As I wonder what would happen. Thomas, it was it was 1912. He built. There was another Olympic class ocean liner for the White Star line. Line. Another ship for the Henry. He must have he must have been happy when that new ship was built. Well, not really. Not really, Henry. Why, Thomas? What could happen? But if you're talking about something must have happened to him on that ship, something must have happened to him on that ship. Exactly. What happened? Exactly. Exactly what happened to him on that ship? What was the ship name? Well, what happened was exactly. Well, let me tell you what happened. Ben, Ben, he was last seen on the ship as the ship was sinking, again, again, and then he was last seen jumping off the starboard side bridge wing into the water depths of the North Atlantic, never to be seen or heard from again. So, I so I heard a lot about Thomas Andrews. Hence, my name said Thomas. But Thomas, yeah, can you answer a question from me? Yes. What was the ship's name? The ship. I hate to even bring up the name of the ship because I my driver could not stop talking about it when this happened. But, being how it's been over 50 years since the disaster, the ship that my guy the guy named after died on was called the Titanic. He he was one of the many victims of the RMS Titan disaster. Thomas, what was the Titan disaster? Sure, I've never heard about it. Yeah, Edward what it is. He would probably know what it is. No. Yes, he would. In some capacity, yes. Edward would know what the Titan disaster was. He knows what the Titan disaster was. As Henry then moved on the turntable with the face Murdoch. What about you? What about you? Who are you named after? Murdoch said, I'm also named after a member of the Titan from the Titan. I'm named after the Titan very first officer, William Murdoch. How Murdoch had some perfect opportunity to save his own life. Murdoch had a lot of perfect opportunity to save his own life, but yeah, he went down with the ship. He was the Thomas, meanwhile, said Thomas Andrews had some perfect opportunity to save himself that night too, and he didn't. Murdoch said, Thomas, yeah? Did Thomas Andrews also have some opportunities to save himself? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But he didn't take any. Huh. That seems unreasonable. Well, he built the ship. He should. But I agree with him. According to Charles Lightoller, a survivor of Titanic, Thomas Andrews wanted to go down with the ship he designed. Which makes some sense, but not a lot. I mean, he had the perfect opportunity. He did get in a lifeboat. What do you mean? He didn't want to get into a lifeboat. I mean, he was the guy that did all this. I mean, I'm just scratching some rubbish, Thomas. He had all the opportunity in the world to get off that Zoom ocean line. You know, before a thing. But now look at him. He's up in up at up at the big Titanic in the sky. Slow down. Slow down, Murdoch. You've not even told me about who. First Officer William Murdoch is the guy I'm named after. Sure, sure. He was last seen aboard the Titanic. Aboard the Titanic, Nick. Charles Lightoller last saw Murdoch, the guy I'm named after. They're flying with a lifeboat, and then as that ship, part of the ship that he would work on sank beneath their feet, he he died. He drowned in the water. The water was too cold that night. Gosh, you two, said Henry. I said I in a loud voice. Now to know that both of your the people that you that you were named after died somehow in a sinking of a ship. I wanted to know what the Titanic disaster was. Is that true that Murdoch and Ambrose never kind of make it for? Or were you just exaggerating? No, Thomas Ambrose and Murdoch were labeled among the dead. Literally the week after the Titanic sank. Yeah, both. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I mean, at least, but Murdoch didn't have that long out of sea before he died on the Titanic. Nick. I mean, he was. I mean, there was the second time Murdoch that he was the first officer or something. What do you mean, Thomas? I mean, First Officer William Murdoch was only the first officer on the Olympic when 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 she set sail. I doubt that main voyage crossing was nothing like our sister, the Titanic. It probably wasn't. It probably was. It probably was not like the because some of the Titanic crew members were from the Olympic. Oh, do tell. Like who? Exactly. Were from the crew aboard Titan that was on that was the crew of the Olympic. Basically, everyone. I don't chalk this up to being lazy. I don't chalk this up to the White Star Line being lazy with their brand new ocean liner. We just don't chalk this up to the White Star Line being 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 lazy with the ocean liner. I mean, they had the most experienced captain in their rank. Huh, I agree with you on that point. The most experienced captain, then Captain Edward John Smith. But what I can't understand is Murdoch. What I can't understand is why Murdoch, for the life of me, he chose to die with the Titanic. Wasn't you know like didn't he load up? Didn't wasn't he one of the officers that night that loaded up both of the lifeboats or something, Thomas? Uh, yes. Why? You see, if he was already working on the boats, then there's no reason for him not to survive. Even after, didn't you tell me once when we found out when I said I would name after him? Didn't you tell me that he? Didn't you tell me that once that he that he chose to die aboard the Titanic? Meanwhile, Henry was like, "Silence!" said the Fat Controller. Thomas, Murdoch, you've been telling you've been just talking nonstop about the guy that you're named after. Sorry for telling you that back and forward. No, I know about the guys that you were named after. So, Murdoch. Yeah? The reason why Murdoch died on the Titanic instead of, making a break for it, is because he wanted to. You see, Murdoch wanted to do the duty, and Thomas. The reason why Thomas Ambrose died is because he he built that ship. Edward, I have a question. Yes, Henry, what is it? What do you know about the Titanic disaster? Why do you bring that up? Why do you bring that up, oh boy? Because Thomas and Murdoch told me earlier today that they had people that died on it. Who their name? Edward said, "I know." Thomas Ambrose and First Officer William Murdoch. But please, Edward, I just want to know the. I never knew about the story of Titanic. I never knew about the story of Titanic. Please, Edward, tell me. Oh well then, there, it's story. If I tell him right, and that's it. And that was it. Island reshoot shoot is coming out tomorrow. So until then, I'm not I will see you later.